Hi, I'm Priyadarshini Nandy. I work as a journalist in Bangalore. I've been here for 14 years.
Okay,
And I write about art, culture, theatre, food, and edit about the same kind of topics.
great,
And yeah, that's it.
great, lovely. Now, I'm going to ask you a question.
Sure.
Have you heard about the term child anxiety?
Yes, I have. I have.
Right, so what do you know about child anxiety?
That it's a subject that needs to be dealt with. For many years, anxiety, I think for the past 3 years, I think 3 years, anxiety is being discussed a lot more.
Right,
I think I'd give social media the credit for that. People are coming forward and talking about anxiety, and that it's a problem. However, child anxiety is something that is relatively new as far as the
yes,
public is concerned.
right,
One, of course, anxiety is something that people never really talked about. They wouldn't discuss it because they were probably ashamed. People who suffer from it. So children, of course, come much later. I mean, no one can think a child can be anxious, but
yes,
like we were discussing earlier, that mind restlessness, being naughty, not being able to focus, um, being slow, mood swings, irrational anger,
right,
cranky, and I also would say incoherent.
right.
I think these are some of the most obvious symptoms
Symptoms.
of anxiety. Not always. There are, of course, moments when these are just random, kids are kids, right? But yes, they definitely suffer from anxiety, and I think I have seen kids who are as young as 7, 8 years old, who I am pretty certain that have anxiety issues, and I don't think that parents have any clue about it. I mean, had any clue about it.
Right,
Maybe now they address it, but yeah.
right. And you also kind of, worked on a documentary
Yes,
sometime back,
yes.
yes.
So many years ago, I was part of a documentary team where we were working with children from the red light area in Calcutta, and out of so we worked with about 11 children, aged between 10 and 16.
Right.
And of the entire group, there was this one child who I consider to be one of the brightest kids I've actually ever met because he's supremely talented. But I was pretty certain he suffered from anxiety. Now, considering his financial background and his social environment, I don't think anyone would have ever even thought that the child could go through any sort of uh, anxiety related problem. But it
Right.
stemmed from emotional trauma, and I was pretty certain of that. He would have severe mood swings. So he was really nice sometimes, and then very selfish sometimes, friendly sometimes, withdrawn sometimes. And when I mean withdrawn, he was severely withdrawn.
Okay.
Like we used to go to his house and he wouldn't come out to see us. And confusion about his life, no one to talk to, not enough friends. In fact, in the middle, I used to think maybe he has a drug problem because in that community, it's
Huh.
not it wouldn't have been surprising. But he never had a drug problem. I'm pretty certain he was anxious about life. He was very depressed, and he's out of that now. He's completely turned his life over.
Okay.
He's found his true calling, if I can say
Okay.
that. He no longer lives there, and but I know for a fact that he was anxious.
And how old was he
He was
when?
11 at that time. Today
Okay.
he's a lot older. This was 2002, so yeah.
Right.
Um, and it's that's the first time it struck me that maybe anxiety is not a thing only for adults, that even
Yes.
children can go through it.
Yes.
He of course got help, in the sense not directly, but his environment changed, and therefore he gradually changed as a person.
Right.
Anxiety comes in many forms, as you know that. I mean, it could be peer pressure, it could be parental pressure. You just don't know where it will come from. And of course, it could also be a medical issue that I did say that I don't want to talk
Yes.
about because I'm
Yes.
not an expert in that.
Right.
But I have read articles, I've read research material, I've read data, from the National Crime Bureau also, that the number of students committing suicide is like some
Absolutely. Yes.
3,500, I think, last in 2015,
Correct.
and before that it was, I think, almost what, 10 times the number.
No, that's true because
Yeah,
if you see, how things have changed. I mean, I mean, I don't want to sound too old, but then, yeah, when we were young, we never kind of
yeah,
had.
yeah,
I mean, our parents were always there. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, we used to kind of
It
get.
was a very regular upbringing.
Yes,
Also, our lives were slower.
yes,
I think that helps, and I keep telling people around me all the time to slow down. Our lives were slower, expectation levels were moderate. That you had to go to school was a given. That you had to make a career out of your, find a career or a goal or a purpose was given. Now, whether you want to be a clerk in an office, or you want to be a writer, or you want to be a painter, at least I didn't have to go through that. I know of my friends who also have gone through tremendous pressure where because he was a boy he had to study engineering,
right.
but at least I haven't had to go through that. Um, we were allowed to more or less decide for ourselves what we wanted to
Yes.
do with our lives. There was, of course, always a little resistance, but never enough to cause damage, emotional damage or social damage.
Right.
But today, of course, things have changed. Everything is online, and kids are, going abroad for holidays with their
Yes.
schools, and therefore, someone else who can't afford the holiday feels the pressure. I think it all stems from pressure, internal as well as external.
Yes. You know, what I feel is nowadays the parent and child relationship has become more like need based. I mean, they kind of cater to all the needs of the children.
Yeah,
When I say that, like
yeah,
materialistic needs,
yeah,
but they don't, I mean, whether they are from a upper class of the
yeah,
society or they are from a,
yeah.
a little
You mean mechanical? You say the
yes,
relationship is
and
mechanical?
yes, but
Okay.
they don't really kind of sit and talk to them. I mean, they wouldn't have any idea like who the child's friends are or what are they doing on the phone or I mean, they give
Yeah.
you the phone, but then they don't know like.
Yeah, I don't have kids, so I don't have any direct relationship with the child. However, I'm going to give you two examples. One is that a friend of mine who's a single parent, male single parent,
Uh-huh.
who brings up his daughter in the most outstanding way I've seen. One, the kid is about I think 7 or 8, and
Okay.
she's not allowed a phone.
Wow.
I have so much respect for him just because of
I
that.
know.
So she's allowed to use his phone while he's there. I think they do have a iPad or something at home
Uh-huh.
which she's allowed to play games on, or watch those children's videos
Yes.
or shows while he's around. But no, she doesn't have her own phone. He talks to her. He treats her almost like an adult.
Okay.
And the way this girl is growing up, I think she's going to be quite an exceptional child, because she's intelligent. She's not precautious, but she knows that okay, I have to go to school. I have the how do I put this? Like the expectations from him are sort of reasonable, and the way he's bringing her up is very interesting. He's interested in her life.
Right.
It's not a need based relationship. On the other hand, I've had another friend who has a grown up daughter, who I don't even know how to begin, because she's gone through. The child went through a series of strange situations at home, and I think there was a communication breakdown somewhere between the family and the child, where the kid just whatever she could capture, whatever information she could
Huh.
capture from whatever she sees, it was just being absorbed by her, but there was no analysis or no explanation given.
Right.
So it's not all, what you always just see is not may not always be the real version or the
Right.
truth, right? I think she is definitely a confused child. So I've seen two examples. They're both modern day parents. One is my age and the other one is a little older. But you're right. I think a child-parent relationship is becoming need-based. Um, Parents can't cope with their children's needs um, and their own needs.
Right.
If you notice, we hardly ever live in a joint family anymore.
Yes.
So there's no help. There is no. The circle's getting really tiny. And when the circle gets really tiny, everybody's sort of scrambling for,
Yes.
time, space, and they're racing and they are busy and they have to go to work, and both parents have to work. And I totally think both parents should always work, because in my family, my mother worked and my father worked. I spent years together growing up in a creche. I have never had issues or mommy issues or daddy issues because of that.
Yes.
Routine was dropped off, picked up later in the day.
Yeah.
I started school at an early age. I have never had stuff like, oh, my mother doesn't spend enough time with me. My mom's a doctor, my father ran his own business, and it was fine. I mean, we grew up just fine. But now I don't know. I don't know. Something is definitely breaking
Something is
down.
not, yes, yes,
Something is not
absolutely.
working out, and it's causing children to get, like, really depressed about life. They're sad, and
Absolutely. And do you think that counseling is the only way to deal with it?
professional counseling?
Yes, or even
Um,
parents, because nowadays
both.
parents don't have time at
No.
all for children.
So, yes, if you can, I think, if I'm not mistaken, if parents strategize a little bit as to how to bring up their children, not in the way the world expects to bring them up, but use their instincts a little more, um, not succumb to the rat race
Yes.
and the competition. Anxiety can definitely be prevented from developing, unless it's a medical condition, and I don't want to go there because
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not qualified
No.
at all to talk about that. But just generally, emotional and psychological anxiety definitely can be controlled with the help of parents. If they can't, it's important they seek professional help. It's really important that they seek professional help.
Right. Thank you so much, Priyadarshini. It was
Not at
really
all.
nice talking to you.
Thank you very much.